Welcome, dear friend. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people recover so quickly from setbacks, while others seem to carry the same wounds for years? Have you ever felt your body whispering long before it screamed, your shoulders tightening in certain conversations, or your heart racing even when you were perfectly safe? There is an ancient dialogue happening inside you, a secret language between your mind and body that most of us have forgotten how to hear. And yet, in quiet monasteries and hidden mountain villages, there are people who still carry a different kind of peace in their very being. They grow old with grace, heal naturally, and radiate a calm so magnetic that just being near them feels like medicine. What if I told you their secret isn't complicated? What if true healing isn't about piling on more effort, more remedies, more noise, but about gently removing what was never truly yours to carry? If you are here, listening to these words, something in you is already ready. Ready for a new kind of medicine, ready for a healing that begins not with striving, but with remembering. So find your most comfortable place, wrap yourself in a blanket, hold a warm cup of tea, or simply close your eyes. Tonight, and in the pages ahead, we will journey together into 5 timeless chapters of Buddhist wisdom, each revealing principles that can transform not only how you heal, but how you live. This isn't about blind belief. It's about learning to listen again, deeply, honestly, gently. Let us begin. For more than 2,500 years, Buddhist teachings have carried a gentle truth about healing. Not through force, not through suppression, but through the quiet art of listening. Tonight, and throughout this first chapter, I want to guide you into a new relationship with your body, one where every ache, every flutter, every sensation is not a problem to silence, but a message waiting to be heard. Think about this. Why do your joints ache more after arguments than after exercise? Why does your stomach twist into knots before a difficult conversation you've been avoiding? These are not coincidences, dear friend. Your body is not malfunctioning. It is speaking in a language older than words. Most of us have been taught to hush these whispers. We pop pills to quiet the tension, drown our unease in distractions, scroll endlessly to avoid the silence. But what if, instead of problems, these sensations were invitations? What if your body wasn't fighting against you, but fighting for you, trying to get your attention? Let me share a story. There was a woman who carried a strange heaviness in her chest for almost 4 years. It wasn't sharp pain, more like an invisible weight pressing down on her heart. She saw doctors, changed her diet, tried supplements. Every test came back normal, but nothing felt normal. One evening, after exhausting herself searching for answers in every possible direction, she finally sat down. No goal, no fixing, just breathing. In that stillness, a memory surfaced that she hadn't touched in decades: the loss of her father, grief she had never allowed herself to feel, words she had never spoken. She wept, not like a movie scene, dramatic and loud, but quietly, with dignity, as if her body was finally being heard. And the next morning, something miraculous happened. The weight had softened. It wasn't gone entirely, but it no longer screamed. It had been acknowledged, and that was enough to begin healing. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha said something profound. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. What he meant was this: your body will experience discomfort. That is part of being human. But suffering is born in the mind. When we resist the pain, when we label it as wrong, when we fear it. The body's sensations are neutral until our mind piles on its stories. Here is the twist most people never hear. Healing doesn't begin when you do something. It begins when you stop doing and start listening. When you stop asking, "How do I make this go away?" and instead whisper, "What are you trying to show me?" Think of your last headache. Was it just dehydration, or was it heavy with words you never spoke? Consider how your stomach reacts around certain people or memories. Notice how your breath changes depending on where you are or who you're with. Your digestive system doesn't just process food, it processes life. Your shoulders don't just hold your posture, they carry invisible burdens. Your heart doesn't just pump blood, it remembers love, loss, and longing. The truth is simple, dear friend. Your body is not your enemy. It is your oldest, most faithful messenger. Every symptom is a signal. Every signal is a request. And when honored, these messengers often transform into healers. Let's pause right now. Close your eyes. Notice your breath. Is it shallow or deep? Notice your shoulders. Are they inching toward your ears? Notice your jaw. Is it clenched against some invisible threat? These are not signs of weakness. They are not evidence that you are broken. They are simply your body's way of saying, "I am here, I am listening, I am responding to your world." And here's the magic. When you acknowledge these sensations without trying to change them, something softens. It's like finally answering a phone that has been ringing for hours. The urgency dissolves, not because you fixed anything, but because the message was received. There was once a man plagued by chronic headaches for years. He tried every treatment, medicine, massage, rest, but nothing gave lasting relief. During a mindfulness retreat, he tried something different. Instead of reaching for relief, he breathed into the tension. In that stillness, he realized something astonishing. His headaches always followed conversations where he hadn't spoken his truth. His head was literally heavy with unsaid words. From then on, each time the pressure built, instead of panicking, he would ask himself, "What truth am I avoiding?" The headaches didn't vanish overnight, but they transformed from tormentors into teachers. This, dear friend, is the revolutionary shift that Buddhist teachings offer. Your body does not need to be fixed. It needs to be heard. It doesn't need to be controlled. It needs to be trusted. Beneath every ache, every tightening, every strange sensation, there is wisdom, waiting patiently. The ancient texts describe the body as both a temporary vessel and a sacred teacher. Every sensation is a sutra, every breath a meditation, every heartbeat a reminder that life is flowing through you right now. So tonight, before you sleep, try something beautifully simple. Place your hand on your heart, close your eyes, take 3 slow breaths, and say quietly, "I'm here now, I hear you." See what rises, see what softens, see what your body has been waiting, perhaps for years, to tell you. You don't need to fix, you don't need to fight, you only need to listen. And that, my dear friend, is where true healing begins. The body remembers what the mind forgets. Welcome back, dear friend. If Chapter 1 began by teaching us that the body whispers before it shouts, then Section 2 will take us even deeper. Because the truth is, your body doesn't just respond to what is happening today. It remembers. It remembers every touch, every word, every unspoken goodbye. It holds the echoes of your past, sometimes long after your mind has moved on or chosen to forget. In Zen Buddhism, there is a teaching that the body is like a sacred scroll, carrying the history of our unexpressed life. Each joint, each muscle, each organ has its own story to tell. But because we are often too busy, too afraid, or too polite to listen, those stories get pushed into the attic of our being. They wait there, quietly, until the weight becomes too heavy to ignore. The Buddha once said, "We do not suffer because we feel, we suffer because we resist feeling." Emotions, he taught, are like clouds drifting across the vast sky of consciousness. They arise, they move, they dissolve. But when we cling to them or push them away, when we grasp or when we deny, that is when suffering takes root. Think of the last time you swallowed back tears because it wasn't the right time to cry. Or the moment you bit your tongue instead of speaking up because you didn't want to make trouble. Or the way you smiled when you were breaking inside, just so no one would worry. Where do you think those emotions went? They didn't vanish. They simply sank deeper into the tissues of your body, waiting for permission to be felt. There was someone who went to their very first silent meditation retreat. On the second day, while walking slowly through the monastery gardens, something cracked open. Without warning, they collapsed into tears. When the teacher gently asked what had surfaced, they sobbed, "I never got to grieve my mother. I was too busy taking care of everyone else." For decades, they had carried the weight of unexpressed grief, believing that being strong meant never falling apart. But in that moment, when they finally allowed themselves to feel, something shifted. They didn't just cry for their mother, they cried for the years they had abandoned themselves. And in that surrender, the body softened, the weight began to lift. This is the hidden cost of suppression. What we refuse to feel becomes stagnant, like water trapped in a pond with no flow. Suppression hardens into tension, inflammation, sickness. Emotions, when locked away, ferment in the dark. But when brought to light, when met with mindful attention, they transform. Anger becomes clarity and boundary setting. Sadness becomes compassion. Fear becomes wisdom about what matters most. Your body remembers what your mind resists. The liver holds anger. The gut stores fear. The chest carries grief. The throat contracts when truth is unsaid. It is not metaphorical poetry, it is biological memory. And if you pause long enough, you will discover how astonishingly honest your body has been all along. Consider a man who carried chronic shoulder pain for almost 10 years. He tried everything: massage, acupuncture, injections, therapy, but nothing lasted. One day, in quiet contemplation, he asked his body, "What are you holding?" The answer came not in words, but in a sudden wave of recognition. His shoulders weren't just tired, they were carrying his father's weight. His father had died young, and at 18, he had become the provider for his family. He had shouldered responsibilities that were never meant for someone so young, and his shoulders, faithful companions, never forgot. The day he finally allowed himself to see this truth, to share the burden, to grieve what was lost, the pain began to soften. The body is incredibly intelligent. It does not place emotions randomly. It organizes them with an elegant logic. The heart carries heartbreak and love. The throat holds unspoken words. The belly digests not only food, but unprocessed experiences. The back carries burdens both literal and metaphorical. When we begin to listen to this wisdom, We see symptoms not as enemies but as messages, signposts pointing us toward the parts of ourselves we have neglected. Sometimes what the body remembers feels unbearable. A woman once shared that she always felt nauseous at family gatherings, even though she loved her relatives. Through gentle exploration, she realized her stomach was holding childhood memories, dinners filled with hidden tension, unspoken conflict, arguments beneath polite conversation. Decades later, her body still braced itself at the table. Understanding this did not make her family perfect, but it gave her permission to step outside when she needed space, to whisper to her stomach, "I hear you, I remember, and I will care for you now." This is the heart of Buddhist practice, not bypassing emotion, not pretending to be calm when storms are raging within, but sitting with the storm until its true message is revealed. Because what you refuse to feel, you cannot heal, and what you avoid emotionally, your body will eventually be forced to carry physically. Let us pause again, here, together. Close your eyes, take one slow breath in, let it out. Now place your hand gently over the part of your body that feels most tense, most heavy, most forgotten. Whisper silently, "What are you holding? What have I asked you to carry for me?" Don't force an answer, simply ask, and then listen. Sometimes silence is the answer, sometimes tears, sometimes an old memory surfaces. Whatever arises, let it come, let it move, let it pass. Healing, in this light, is not about conquering symptoms, it is about befriending them. It is about learning to sit with the sadness you once ran from, to hold the anger you once feared, to honor the fear you once despised. When emotions are met with compassion, they reveal their gifts. Grief shows you how deeply you have loved. Anger shows you where your boundaries have been crossed. Fear points to what you cherish most. The lotus grows in mud, not in perfect soil. In the same way, our most painful emotions are not obstacles to peace. They are the raw material of our wisdom. The very things we have been avoiding are the very keys to our healing. So tonight, dear friend, when the world quiets and you are left alone with your thoughts, try this. Place both hands over your heart, close your eyes, and ask gently, "What have you been holding for me? What are you ready to release?" Do not push, do not demand, simply ask, then breathe. Perhaps nothing will happen, or perhaps a wave of grief, a ripple of fear, or even a sudden lightness will emerge. Whatever it is, let it be. You are not breaking down, you are breaking through. You are not falling apart, you are coming together. Remember this always. Your body is not your enemy. Your emotions are not your problem. They are proof that you are magnificently alive, that you have survived everything life has given you so far. And in this survival lies a quiet miracle. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are still capable of listening. And in that listening, healing has already begun. The medicine of presence. Dear friend, if the first lesson was about listening to the body and the second about honoring the emotions it carries, then the third principle may be the most revolutionary of all. Because while the past holds our unprocessed memories and the future holds our endless worries, healing can only happen in one place here, in this exact breath, in this exact moment. Buddhism teaches something that sounds simple but is often the hardest to live. The past is memory, the future is imagination, only the present is real. Yet most of us spend our days everywhere except where we are. We replay yesterday's regrets like a broken film reel. We fast forward into tomorrow's fears that have not even arrived. And meanwhile, the only moment that truly exists, the present, slips by unnoticed. Like a friend, we keep standing up. The Buddha discovered this truth beneath the Bodhi tree. All suffering comes from mental time travel. When the mind is fully present, when it stops its restless wandering between what was and what might be, something extraordinary is revealed. Peace is not something that arrives from outside. It is uncovered from within, revealed the moment the noise stops. Think of the last time you were completely absorbed in something beautiful, watching a sunset, listening to music that touched your soul, holding someone you loved so deeply that time seemed to disappear. Where was your anxiety in those moments? Where were your fears, your regrets? They hadn't been solved. They had simply dissolved in the light of presence. There is a story of someone who lived for years with chronic pain and a restless, anxious mind. One afternoon, worn down by exhaustion, they sat under a small Bodhi tree in their garden. They weren't trying to meditate. They weren't trying to fix themselves. They were simply too tired to keep fighting. So they sat, breathing, watching the leaves sway in the breeze, and for the first time, in months, perhaps years, they were simply here, not in yesterday, not in tomorrow, just here. Something extraordinary happened. The pain didn't vanish, but their relationship with it transformed. It was no longer an enemy to be feared, but a companion to be breathed with. The anxiety lost its grip, becoming just another sensation, like the sound of the wind in the leaves. They realized then that most of their suffering had not come from the pain itself, but from all the thoughts they had wrapped around it. Presence is medicine, not because it makes every problem disappear, but because it dissolves the resistance that multiplies our pain. Pain is what happens. Suffering is the story we add. And when we are fully present, the story falls away, leaving only what is true in this moment. Think of your mind like a snow globe. Shake it and everything blurs, confusion, chaos, overwhelm. But set it down, let it rest, and the flakes slowly settle. The scene beneath, always there, becomes visible. Presence is setting the globe of your mind down, letting the flakes of worry and regret settle until clarity returns. And the beautiful thing is, presence does not require special conditions. You don't need to be in a monastery or on a mountaintop. You can practice presence anywhere, with anything. Wash your dishes with awareness, the feel of warm water on your hands, the scent of soap. Walk to the mailbox, noticing the rhythm of your steps, the rise and fall of your breath. Drink your morning coffee as if it were a sacred ritual, tasting each sip, feeling its warmth. In Zen monasteries, monks practice mindful work, sweeping the floor, chopping vegetables, tending the garden. Each act is approached with the same reverence as meditation. They understand something we often forget. It's not what you are doing that makes life sacred. It is how you are doing it. Let's practice together now. Take a slow breath in. As you inhale, say silently to yourself, "Now is safe." As you exhale, whisper inside, "Now is enough." Again, breathe in, "Now is safe." Breathe out, "Now is enough." Don't try to force the experience. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back. Let the words anchor you. Presence doesn't mean the moment will always be pleasant. Sometimes being present means sitting with sadness or anxiety or discomfort without distraction. But even then, presence is medicine, because when you stop running from what is, you discover that what is can be lived with. What was unbearable in your imagination becomes bearable in reality. There is a Zen master who was once asked the secret of his peace. He said simply, "I never leave where I am." That is the essence of presence. Most of our suffering comes not from what is happening, but from leaving the moment chasing what has already gone, fearing what hasn't yet arrived. You are perfect as you are, the Zen teaching says, and you could use a little improvement. Presence holds both truths. You are already whole, and yet life invites you to grow. Presence doesn't mean you never change. It means you grow from reality, not from fantasy. So, dear friend, let me remind you, the body is always present. Your breath is here. Your heartbeat is now. The sensation of your feet touching the ground is now. Whenever you anchor in the body, you return home. This is why the breath has been central to meditation for thousands of years, not because it is mystical, but because it is always now. You can't breathe yesterday's breath or tomorrow's breath. Every inhale, every exhale is an invitation back to life. So tonight, as you lie in bed, instead of rehearsing tomorrow's worries or replaying today's mistakes, try this. Feel your chest rise and fall. Whisper silently, "This breath is enough." Feel your heart beating. This moment is enough. With each breath, return again and again to the truth you so often forget. You already have what you need. Healing doesn't live in the past or the future. It lives here, in this breath, in this body, in this moment. When you return to presence, you return to yourself. And in returning to yourself, you uncover the peace that has been waiting for you all along. Loving the parts you have rejected. If presence is medicine, then love is the deeper cure. Many people think healing is only about repairing the body or calming the mind. But true healing also asks something more radical. To turn toward the very parts of yourself you have spent a lifetime rejecting, and to hold them with compassion. Have you noticed how quick you are to criticize yourself? How easily you say, "I'm too weak, I'm too broken, I'm too late." We speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to a dear friend. And yet, these rejected parts, the sadness, the fear, the shame, do not vanish just because you disown them. They wait quietly, like children locked outside the house, longing to be let back in. The Buddha taught that compassion is the antidote to suffering. Not judgment, not punishment, but compassion. Imagine sitting across from yourself, not as critic, but as friend. What would you say? What would you ask? What would you apologize for? There was a woman who suffered from years of anxiety. No matter what she tried, nothing seemed to bring lasting peace. In meditation one day, she stopped fighting. She placed her hand on her chest and said softly, "I know you're here. Thank you for trying to protect me." To her surprise, her anxiety shifted. It was not her enemy. It was excitement wearing the mask of fear, energy she had once been told was dangerous. By meeting it with love instead of resistance, she began to live with her anxiety differently. It did not disappear, but it softened. It transformed from tormentor into misunderstood friend. In Buddhist practice, we often speak of the guest house of the heart. Every feeling, whether joy or sorrow, anger or fear, is welcomed like a guest. Some guests are delightful, and we wish they would stay forever. Others are painful, and we cannot wait for them to leave. But the teaching is this: all are to be met with the same respect, the same basic hospitality. Because each emotion carries a message. Each one comes bearing a gift, if only we are brave enough to open the door. Think of anger, how quickly we judge it, suppress it, or fear it. And yet, anger often arrives to show us where our boundaries have been crossed. It can become clarity, protection, power if we honor it. Sadness, too, is not a weakness. It is proof of how deeply you have loved. Fear reminds you of what matters most, what you want to protect. Every so-called negative emotion has a positive root when embraced. But when these guests are turned away, they don't leave. They find another way to stay. Anger becomes headaches. Sadness becomes fatigue. Fear becomes a tightness in the chest. This is why love is not optional in healing. To reject your emotions is to exile yourself. To embrace them is to become whole again. There is a Zen story about a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors cried, "How terrible!" The farmer simply said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing 3 wild horses. "How wonderful!" the neighbors exclaimed. The farmer replied, "Maybe." The story continues this way. What appears to be a blessing becomes a curse. What appears to be a curse becomes a blessing. The teaching is simple. What we judge as bad may carry hidden gifts. What we call good may need balance. Our emotions are the same. When you stop labeling them, you start learning from them. Let's try something now. Close your eyes. Imagine your heart as a guest house. One by one, picture the emotions you have resisted. Perhaps grief, perhaps anger, perhaps shame. Instead of pushing them away, whisper, "Oh, you're here. Come in. Sit down. What do you need me to know?" Don't demand an answer. Just offer welcome. Often, that is enough. There was a man who had been irritable for years, always snapping at those closest to him. In meditation, he discovered that his irritability was not anger at all. It was grief. Grief that had never been expressed. Grief that had transformed into constant agitation. When he finally allowed himself to weep, his irritability softened. He was not broken. He was simply carrying sorrow that wanted to be felt. Strength, you see, is not about holding it all together. Real strength is allowing yourself to fall apart when you need to, trusting that like a tree shedding leaves, you will grow again. The lotus flower blooms because of the mud, not in spite of it. In the same way, the parts of you that you have rejected, the pain, the shame, the grief, are not obstacles to your healing. They are the soil from which your compassion will grow. So tonight, before you sleep, try writing a letter. Begin with "Dear Body," or "Dear Heart," or "Dear Fear." Let yourself write without censoring. Apologize for the ways you have ignored, criticized, or silenced yourself. Thank your body for its loyalty, your heart for its resilience, your fear for its protection, and then, if you feel brave, write back from the perspective of that part. Let your body, your heart, your fear speak to you. You may be surprised by how much love and forgiveness has been waiting inside you all along. Dear friend, remember this: you are not broken, you are not weak, you are not unworthy. You are a guest house for the full spectrum of human feeling. You are a sky vast enough for every cloud. You are a heart wide enough for every guest. And when you meet each part of yourself with compassion, you discover that nothing within you was ever the enemy. Everything, even the darkest pain, was simply waiting to come home. The purpose that keeps you alive. If presence is the medicine and love is the cure, then purpose is the breath that keeps life moving through you. People don't only fade because their bodies grow weak. They fade because they forget why they want their bodies to keep going. They forget the reason to rise each morning. Without purpose, even a strong body can feel lifeless. With purpose, even a weary body can glow with vitality. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called right livelihood. It is often interpreted as how we make our living, but at its heart, it is about alignment. When your daily actions flow from your deepest nature, when what you do matches who you truly are, you create harmony, and harmony is profoundly healing. There was once a monk who, even in old age, woke before dawn to guide morning meditation. When asked why he still kept such a rigorous schedule when younger monks could have taken his place, he simply smiled, pointed to his legs, and said, "Teaching is why they still work." His strength was not sustained only by food or exercise, but by meaning. His heart beat strong not just from blood, but from devotion. You see, purpose is not always grand. It does not need to be written in history books. It may be as small as reading stories to children at the library, tending to a garden because you love how the morning light touches its leaves, or calling someone who feels forgotten. The lotus does not bloom in a manicured pond. It rises out of mud. In the same way, your deepest purpose may not reveal itself in your brightest seasons, but in your darkest. There was a woman, a retired nurse, who fell into deep depression when she stopped working. She felt invisible, useless, as though her best years had vanished. One morning, wandering into the children's section of her local library, she saw a group of restless kids waiting for story hour. The volunteer reader had not shown up. She stepped forward, almost by accident, and offered to read. As she began, her voice, rusty from disuse, warmed with life. Her body, tired only moments before, straightened with joy. That one morning turned into a weekly routine. Weeks became months, and her depression softened. Her purpose had returned, not in a hospital ward, but in the delighted eyes of children. This is the secret. Purpose is not about being impressive. It is about being aligned. It is about letting your life matter to someone else, even in the simplest way. Purpose might be listening when no one else does. It might be smiling at strangers, planting flowers where others will walk, or offering calm in chaotic places. These quiet purposes breathe life into your cells, into your spirit, into your days. And the beauty is this: you don't have to find purpose. You only have to remember it. It has been with you since the beginning, waiting under layers of fear, waiting beneath the belief that you are too old, too tired, too late. Purpose is as close as your breath, as simple as kindness, as powerful as choosing to love when it would be easier to turn away. So let me ask you, what makes you want to wake up tomorrow? Is it the hope of seeing the sunrise? Is it the voice of someone you love? Is it the chance to ease a small burden for a stranger? Or perhaps it is curiosity itself. What will life teach me next? Whatever it is, honor it. However small it seems, let it be enough. Because that is how purpose works. It begins as a seed, and it grows in the direction of your attention. Dear friend, you are not too old, too broken, or too late. You are exactly who the world needs right now. someone who has lived, who has learned, who carries a medicine only your journey could create. When you remember your purpose, your body hears the message: we are needed, we are worth sustaining, we are worth healing, and the body responds with life. So tonight, before sleep, whisper softly to yourself, I still have a reason to be here, I still have something to give. Feel how those words change the way your body rests, the way your heart beats. Let that purpose be the quiet sun that rises in you, warming every cell, reminding you that your best contributions are not behind you. They are unfolding now, in this breath, in this moment, in the life you are still living. The mind and body are not separate. Welcome again, dear friend. If Chapter 1 invited you to listen to the whispers of your body, Chapter 2 opens with a truth that is even more profound. Your body and your mind are not separate. They are one continuous stream, two currents of the same river, flowing together in ways most of us never fully realize. Modern culture often teaches us otherwise. We are told the body is like a machine to be fixed, while the mind is something separate, something we can control with willpower or intellect. But Buddhism, for over 2,000 years, has taught a different view. The body and the mind are not two entities loosely connected. They are one single field of experience. When the mind suffers, the body shows it. When the body aches, the mind responds. They dance together in every breath, every heartbeat, every thought. Think about how your stomach tightens before a stressful conversation, how your jaw clenches when you are holding back words you long to speak, how your shoulders rise when you brace for criticism. None of these reactions are random. They are proof that your thoughts are not floating somewhere above your body. They are etched into your muscles, your nerves, your very cells. There was a teacher who noticed her throat would tighten every time she entered the staff meeting room. At first, she blamed it on stress, on being too busy, on aging. But when she slowed down and listened, she realized it happened only when she anticipated being silenced. Her throat was literally bracing for invisibility. Once she understood, she began to speak earlier in meetings, not louder, not more aggressively, but with steady presence. And gradually, her throat softened. Her body had been telling her the truth all along. Your body is not just a vehicle carrying your mind through life. It is a wise companion, constantly speaking, constantly responding, constantly guiding you. It knows when you are safe and when you are not. It knows when you are loved and when you are betrayed. It knows which places and which people nourish you and which ones drain your spirit. While your mind may rationalize, argue, or deny, your body does not lie. This is why in Buddhist practice we do not separate body and mind. To breathe with awareness is to calm the mind. To calm the mind is to heal the body. To honor the body is to quiet the mind. Each action ripples through the whole. But here is the tragedy. Many of us live as if our body were an enemy. We ignore its fatigue. We override its signals. We criticize its appearance, its weight, its aging. We treat it like a burden rather than a partner. And the more we silence it, the louder it must shout to get our attention. Illness, tension, chronic pain. So often these are not failures of the body, but the body's last desperate attempts to be heard. Imagine for a moment that your body is not an object but a dear friend. A friend who has been carrying your secrets, protecting your wounds, working tirelessly for your survival. even when you ignored it, even when you criticized it, even when you despised it. Still, it pumped your blood, mended your wounds, breathed you through the night. Isn't that astonishing? Pause here. Place your hand over your chest. Feel your heart beating. Notice that it has been beating since before you were born, without your command, without your gratitude, without pause. This is not just biology. This is love in motion. Your body loves you so fiercely that it continues to serve you even when you do not serve it back. To walk the Buddhist path of healing is to end the war within yourself, to stop treating the body and the mind as strangers or enemies, and to recognize them as one seamless field of life. When you breathe, you are nourishing both. When you rest, you are soothing both. When you criticize yourself, you are wounding both. Dear friend, healing begins the moment you say, "I will stop fighting you. I will listen." The body and the mind are not separate. They never were. They are one. And when you honor that oneness, you step into a harmony that has always been waiting for you. The body as a living memory. Dear friend, your body is not only a vessel carrying you through the present moment, it is also a library. Every touch, every wound, every unspoken word, every kindness or betrayal, it all leaves an imprint. The body is a living memory, holding what the mind has forgotten or chosen to bury. This is why sometimes, when you step into a room, you feel a sudden heaviness without explanation, or when you hear a certain tone of voice, your chest tightens, though you can't quite recall why. It is not random. Your body remembers. It remembers the fear of a childhood argument. It remembers the sting of silence at a moment you needed comfort. It remembers the joy of being truly seen and the ache of being ignored. A woman once shared her experience of family gatherings. She loved her relatives deeply, yet every time she sat at the dinner table, she felt sick. For years, she blamed it on food, digestion, even seasonal allergies. But when she slowed down and listened, she realized her stomach was remembering the tension of childhood meals, where conflict simmered beneath polite conversation. Her body braced itself for battles long over, though her mind had moved on. Understanding this did not erase the family's imperfections, but it gave her permission to care for herself. She began taking small breaks, stepping outside for air, whispering gently to her stomach, "I hear you, I remember, and I will care for you now." This is the wisdom of the body. It speaks when the mind has grown silent. It holds the grief we postponed, the anger we swallowed, the love we did not dare express. It stores what we could not bear to feel at the time, hoping that one day we would be ready to meet it. Think of emotions as guests. If welcomed, they move through the house of your being, leaving behind the gift they carried. But if barred at the door, they set up camp in the attic or the basement. They linger, growing heavier with time, until one day the weight becomes unbearable. That is when the body begins to whisper, then ache, then shout, "Please, can we unpack these boxes? I can't carry them alone anymore." There was a man who lived with chronic fatigue for years. No amount of rest restored him. He felt as though his very soul had grown tired. During a meditation retreat, something unexpected happened. He began to weep, not with drama, not with story, but with a release so deep it seemed to come from his cells. Decades of unexpressed grief poured out, and when it was done, he felt lighter, as if he had returned to himself after a long absence. His fatigue had not been laziness or weakness, it had been unspoken sorrow, waiting patiently for release. The Buddha taught that what we resist persists. Emotions are like weather moving across the vast sky of awareness. They form, they peak, they pass away. But when we resist them, when we lock them away, they stagnate, and the body becomes their prison. Anger, when unexpressed, stiffens into tension. Grief, when avoided, settles like a stone in the chest. Fear, when ignored, coils into the gut. But here lies the beauty. When we turn toward these feelings with compassion, they transform. Anger becomes clarity, grief becomes tenderness, fear becomes wisdom. The very emotions we feared would destroy us become the soil of our healing. Let us try a practice together. Close your eyes, place a hand on your belly, your chest, or wherever you feel the most tension. Whisper silently, "What have you been holding for me? What are you ready to release?" Wait without expectation. Perhaps nothing comes. Perhaps a memory rises. Perhaps only a tear. Whatever it is, allow it. Do not fix. Do not fight. Simply be present. Your body is not broken, dear friend. It is a storyteller, carrying the history you were too young, too overwhelmed, or too busy to face. It does not punish you. It protects you. It does not betray you. It waits for you, patiently, faithfully. And when you finally pause long enough to listen, it whispers the truth. You were never weak for feeling. You were strong for surviving. And now you are ready to heal. The elegance of emotional geography. Your body, dear friend, is not random in the way it stores emotion. There is an exquisite order, a kind of map that reveals where your inner storms have settled. Hearts carry heartbreak and love. Throats hold back unspoken truths. Bellies digest not only food, but experiences that were too much to swallow. Shoulders carry responsibilities, both real and imagined. This is the body's emotional geography, an elegant design that mirrors the landscape of your life. Consider the heart. It beats faithfully, moment by moment, never asking for recognition, and yet it carries more than blood. It remembers every embrace, every loss, every betrayal, every moment of love received or denied. When grief is unspoken, the heart feels heavy. When joy is abundant, it feels light and expansive. It is both muscle and memory. Think of the throat. How often have you silenced yourself when your truth wanted to be spoken? How many times have you swallowed words for fear of judgment, conflict, or rejection? Each time, your throat remembers. It tightens, braces, contracts, as though preparing for invisibility. Over time, unspoken truths can settle there, creating tension that no amount of water or lozenges can wash away. And the belly, oh, the belly is wise beyond measure. It is where life is digested, not just meals, but moments. When we say we can't stomach something, it is more than a metaphor. The belly contracts when faced with dishonesty, expands with laughter, and churns when life feels overwhelming. How many times have you eaten not because you were hungry, but because you were lonely, anxious, or afraid? The belly remembers. There is a story of a woman who suffered from chronic digestive issues for years. She tried diet after diet, pill after pill, but nothing helped. Then one day she realized it wasn't only food her body couldn't digest, it was her life. the toxic relationship she stayed in, the job that drained her spirit, the dreams she had swallowed to keep the peace. When she began to acknowledge these truths, when she gave herself permission to leave, to speak, to dream again, her digestion improved. Not overnight, but gradually, like a river clearing after years of debris. This is the poetry of the body. It speaks in metaphor, in symbols, in sensations that seem mysterious until we dare to listen. Shoulder pain may be more than posture. It may be the weight of burdens that were never truly yours. A sore back may reveal responsibilities carried alone. A migraine may be the mind's way of saying, "These thoughts are too heavy, please set them down." In Zen monasteries, there is a practice called emotional sitting. Monks would sit with difficult feelings, not to banish them, not to cling to them, but simply to observe. They discovered that when emotions are met with spacious awareness, they naturally shift. Anger softens into clarity, fear dissolves into presence, sadness transforms into compassion. The geography changes when it is mapped with love. Let us pause together now. Close your eyes. Scan gently from the crown of your head down to your feet. Notice each region. Where is there tightness? Where is there warmth? Where is there emptiness? Do not judge. Do not label. Simply notice. Imagine you are tracing the geography of your inner world with the kindness of an explorer, curious and tender. Your body is not against you. It is guiding you. Every ache, every knot, every flutter is an invitation. Here, it says, look here, feel here, heal here. When you begin to honor this map, you stop seeing symptoms as enemies and start seeing them as teachers. Dear friend, your body is not a battlefield. It is a landscape of sacred memory. And when you learn to walk its valleys, climb its mountains, and rest beside its rivers with compassion, you will find that every place, even the most painful, was leading you home. When suppression becomes sickness, dear friend, we have spoken of the body as memory and as map. Now let us look at what happens when we refuse to honor what the body carries. Because what is unfelt does not vanish. What is unspoken does not dissolve. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They find another way to live inside you. The Buddha compared suppressed feelings to stagnant water. Left unmoving, it grows cloudy, heavy, toxic. Emotions are meant to flow, to arise and pass like weather. But when we block them, they congeal. Thoughts become tension. Unspoken anger hardens into inflammation. Silent grief sinks into fatigue. Anxiety, ignored, coils into the gut. Suppression becomes sickness. Think of the messages you heard growing up. Big boys don't cry. Good girls don't get angry. Don't be so sensitive. Keep your chin up. These well-meaning phrases taught you to hide entire parts of your humanity. And where did those emotions go? They went underground into the tissues, into the joints, into the breath. The house of your being stored them in boxes in the attic. But boxes, when too heavy, strain the floorboards. Eventually, the whole house begins to sag under the weight. There was a man who suffered from chronic shoulder pain for nearly a decade. He tried everything: massage, injections, therapy, but the pain always returned. One day, as he sat in quiet reflection, he asked himself what his shoulders had been carrying. In that silence, realization dawned. He had been carrying his father's burden. When his father died young, he took on the role of provider. At 18, He shouldered responsibilities far beyond his years, and his body, loyal and faithful, remembered. His shoulders were not just tired, they were heavy with grief and duty never meant for him. The day he finally named this truth, the weight began to lift. His pain softened, not because the muscles were cured, but because the burden was finally shared. This is the tragedy and the miracle. Tragedy, because so many of us will carry invisible weights until our final breath, never realizing they were optional. Miracle, because the body never stops hoping we will listen. It waits, patient and loyal, for us to come home. A woman once described her chronic irritability as living with a smoke detector that would not stop beeping. Through gentle practice, she discovered that her irritation was not anger at all. It was grief she had never allowed to be felt. Grief unexpressed had disguised itself as agitation, buzzing constantly beneath her skin. When she finally let herself weep, the smoke cleared. The irritability did not vanish completely, but it softened into its natural role as a signal, not a constant state. Dear friend, this is what the Buddha meant when he said, "What you resist persists." When you run from grief, it chases you through your body. When you silence anger, it screams through your joints. When you deny fear, it coils into your breath. The body becomes the storage unit for your unlived emotional life. But here lies the gift. Suppression does not have to be the end of the story. The very places that ache are the doorways back to wholeness. Your back pain might be asking, "Whose weight are you carrying?" Your insomnia might whisper, "What are you not ready to release?" Your stomach might plead, "What truth can you no longer swallow?" Pause with me here. Take a deep breath. Place your hand over the place in your body that feels most tense. Whisper silently, "I see you. I hear you. You don't have to carry this alone anymore." Stay with that place, not to fix it, but to honor it. Dear friend, your pain is not punishment. It is conversation. Your illness is not betrayal. It is truth waiting for your love. When you learn to meet your body with compassion, you will find that what once felt like sickness becomes the very teacher that shows you how to live, turning poison into medicine. There is a teaching in Buddhism, both simple and profound. Poison can become medicine. The very experiences that once wounded you, the emotions you feared would undo you, can become the very soil from which your healing grows. Most people think healing means erasing pain, clearing sorrow, silencing anger. But in the Buddhist view, transformation does not come from rejection. It comes from turning toward what hurts with a new kind of attention. When you bow to your pain instead of fighting it, when you listen instead of silencing, the poison reveals its hidden gift. There was a woman who lived with years of anxiety, her chest buzzing like a hummingbird trapped in a cage. She tried everything to calm it: therapy, medication, meditation apps, but nothing touched its root. During a retreat, she stopped trying to calm it and instead became curious. She sat with the hummingbird, breathing gently, whispering, "I see you. I am here." Slowly, she realized her anxiety was not only fear, it was excitement. It was life force she had been taught to suppress, told that too much joy or too much hope would lead to disappointment. Her anxiety was her passion in disguise, and once she understood this, it softened, not gone, but transformed from torment into guidance. This is how poison becomes medicine. Anger, when denied, burns you from within. But when honored, it becomes power to protect your boundaries. Grief, when avoided, weighs like a stone, but when felt, it becomes tenderness and compassion for others. Fear, when hidden, freezes your life, but when embraced, it points directly to what matters most. The lotus is the perfect symbol. It does not grow in clear, pristine water. It rises from mud, from darkness, from decay. Without mud, no lotus. Without suffering, no compassion. Without poison, no medicine. The very things you believed disqualified you from peace. The grief, the anger, the shame are the very things that, if embraced, become your doorway to peace. A man once said his greatest wound became his greatest gift. He had battled addiction for years, nearly destroying himself. Yet when he healed, he discovered his story was the very medicine others needed. He became a counselor, guiding those still lost in the dark. His poison had not been erased. It had been alchemized into compassion, into service, into healing for others. This, dear friend, is the deepest teaching. Your suffering does not make you less whole. It makes you more human. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness, but of survival. And when you let them, they become bridges of connection, reminders that we all hurt, and therefore we all belong. So tonight, when you lie in bed, instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this pain?" try asking, "What is this pain teaching me? What medicine is it hiding?" Breathe into that question. Let the answer come slowly. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but in its own time. Dear friend, you are not broken, you are becoming. You are not poisoned, you are ripening into medicine. Everything you have endured, everything you have carried, can serve not only your healing but the healing of others. This is the alchemy of compassion. This is the gift hidden inside your wounds. The impermanence of all things. Dear friend, everything you love, everything you fear, everything you cling to is marked by the same truth. It will change. This is the law of impermanence, one of the most profound and liberating teachings of the Buddha. Nothing stays as it is. Every breath rises and falls. Every season comes and goes. Every joy, every sorrow, every body, every life, each is temporary. At first, this may sound frightening. After all, we long for stability. We want love to last forever, health to remain strong, happiness to stay unbroken. When change comes, when someone we love dies, when our bodies weaken, when joy turns to loss, it feels like betrayal. But the Buddha did not teach impermanence to frighten us. He taught it to free us. Imagine holding a flower. If you believe it will last forever, you cling to it, anxious about the day it fades. But if you understand impermanence, you marvel at its beauty precisely because it will not last. The fragility of its petals makes them more precious, not less. Impermanence teaches us to love fully, to savor deeply, to bow in gratitude to what is here now. There was a woman who grieved endlessly for her lost youth. She looked in the mirror and mourned each wrinkle, each change. She felt as though life was slipping away, that she was becoming invisible. But through meditation, she discovered something extraordinary. Her body's changes were not signs of loss, but of ripening. Like fruit growing sweeter with time, she realized her years had deepened her compassion, her wisdom, her authenticity. She no longer needed to prove herself. Her lines became maps of laughter and sorrow survived. She had not lost beauty, she had gained depth. Impermanence is not only about aging or death, it is present in every moment. Think of a storm. The clouds gather, rain falls, winds rage. But the storm passes, the sky remains. Your emotions are like this. Anger rises, burns, dissolves. Sadness flows in, softens, recedes. Even joy, bright and expansive, changes form. Nothing stays. And that is not tragedy, it is grace. Because if pain were permanent, hope would be lost. But pain too will change. Every wound softens, every winter yields to spring. In Zen monasteries, monks meditate by watching their breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Each breath is born, lives for a moment, and dies, making way for the next. The breath itself is impermanence embodied. And when you truly see this, you realize something astonishing. Clinging is unnecessary. You don't need to hold on so tightly. The breath will return on its own. Life flows whether you grasp or release. So let us practice together. Close your eyes. Place your hand on your belly. Feel it rise as you inhale. Feel it fall as you exhale. Whisper silently, "This too will change." Each breath comes, each breath goes, and yet you remain the awareness behind it all. Dear friend, impermanence is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It reminds you that loss is natural, that pain is temporary, that joy is fleeting and therefore precious. It teaches you that clinging brings suffering, while acceptance brings peace. When you bow to change, you bow to life itself. So the next time you find yourself resisting longing for the past, fearing the future, place your hand on your heart and remember, nothing stays, nothing is lost, everything transforms. You are not the storm. You are the sky, and the sky endures. Embracing change without fear. Dear friend, if impermanence is the truth of all things, then learning to embrace change is the art of living. We often suffer not because change is happening, but because we resist it. We grasp at what is leaving. We fear what is arriving. We tell ourselves stories that the past was safer, the future more dangerous. And in doing so, we miss the only place where life is actually unfolding this moment, right here. Think of the seasons. Spring bursts forth with blossoms, summer ripens with warmth, autumn releases with grace, winter rests in stillness. None of the seasons argue with one another. The tree does not beg to keep its leaves in autumn. It lets go, trusting that spring will come again. Why then do we humans resist the cycles of our own lives? Why do we cling to youth, to certainty, to the illusion of permanence, when nature shows us every day that nothing stays the same? There was a man who lost his job after 20 years. For months, he resisted reality. He cursed his fate, replayed old memories, compared the present to the past. He lived in a story that his best years were behind him. His body grew heavy, his energy drained. But one day, walking along a river, he noticed how the water flowed effortlessly around stones. The river did not stop when blocked. It adjusted, found a new path, kept moving. He realized then that he too could flow, that his life was not ending but shifting. When he let go of the past, he discovered new opportunities, passions he had long ignored. Change, once feared, became his teacher. This is the gift of embracing impermanence. It reveals that endings are not failures, but beginnings in disguise. The flower withers to make way for fruit. The sun sets to allow the stars their turn. Every loss holds within it the seed of transformation, but to see this, we must loosen our grip. Buddhism teaches that clinging is the root of suffering. We cling to identities, mother, father, worker, healer, as if they define us permanently. We cling to possessions, to relationships, even to pain, because at least it feels familiar. But everything we cling to will eventually change, and when it does, our grip turns into anguish. The tighter we hold, the more it hurts when life asks us to release. Consider water. When held loosely, it rests calmly in your hands. When you clutch it tightly, it slips through your fingers. Life is the same. The more you grasp, the more you lose. The more you open, the more you receive. A woman once shared that she feared aging more than anything. Each new wrinkle felt like betrayal, each grey hair a loss. She clung desperately to youth, and her suffering deepened with every passing year. But when she encountered the Buddhist teaching of impermanence, something shifted. She began to see aging not as decay, but as ripening. Like fruit sweetening on the branch, she realized her years had given her depth. She no longer needed to compete, to prove, to strive for validation. Her lines became maps of survival, her body a story of love endured and sorrow overcome. What she once feared became her pride. Change, embraced, became grace. Let us pause for a moment here. Close your eyes if you can. Think of one thing in your life that is changing right now. Perhaps your body, your relationships, your work or your dreams. Notice how you feel about this change. Do you resist it? Do you cling to what was? Do you fear what is to come? Take a deep breath. Whisper silently, "This too is part of life. This too is teaching me." Feel the weight of resistance soften, even just a little. In Zen, there is a saying, "Let go or be dragged." Change is happening whether we resist it or not. The question is not whether we can stop change, we cannot. The question is whether we will let it drag us in anguish, or whether we will release and flow. The river flows, the clouds move, the seasons turn. You too are part of this rhythm. You are not outside of it, not a mistake in the system. You are woven into the same fabric of impermanence. And when you align with this truth, you stop fighting reality and begin to dance with it. Another story. A student once asked his Zen master, "What is the secret of peace?" The master replied, "Accept what is." The student frowned. "But what if I don't like what is?" The master smiled. "Then accept that you don't like it." This is the heart of Buddhist wisdom. Even your resistance can be held with acceptance. You don't need to force yourself to enjoy every change. You only need to allow it, to say, "This too belongs." When we learn to embrace change, fear loosens. We begin to trust life the way a sailor trusts the wind. Sometimes it carries us quickly, sometimes it blows us off course, but always it moves us. And movement is life. Stagnation is death. So, dear friend, practice this in the small things. When you sip your morning coffee, notice how it cools. When you hear laughter, notice how it fades into silence. When a thought arises, watch how it dissolves. Each small change is a teacher, preparing you for the larger ones. When illness comes, when relationships shift, when death approaches, you will already know the rhythm. You will have practiced letting go in 1,000 small ways. Let us practice now. Inhale, exhale, whisper silently. Nothing stays. Nothing is lost. Everything transforms. Feel the truth of that. Feel how it softens your grip, how it widens your heart. Change does not mean you lose everything. It means you gain the chance to love everything while it is here. Embracing impermanence means savoring your tea because you know it will grow cold, holding your loved ones because you know you cannot hold them forever, living fully because you know one day this life, too, will transform. Dear friend, impermanence is not an enemy to be feared. It is the gentle hand reminding you, do not waste this moment. Do not wait for a better tomorrow to be alive. This is it. This is your life. Changing, flowing, ripening, fading, beginning again. Bow to change. Trust it. Live it. And you will find that the very thing you once feared most becomes the path to your deepest peace. Finding stillness in the flow of change. Dear friend, if impermanence is the nature of all things, then finding stillness within change is the art of wisdom. At first, this may sound impossible. How can there be stillness if everything is moving? How can peace exist if nothing remains the same? But this is precisely the paradox of Buddhist teaching. True stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the calm awareness that holds all movement. Imagine the ocean. Waves rise and fall, storms churn its surface, tides shift with the pull of the moon, and yet beneath, in its depths, the water is still. It does not resist the storm. It does not cling to calm. It simply allows. The ocean teaches us that stillness does not mean freezing life into place. Stillness means remembering the depth that remains unchanged, even as the surface dances. Our lives are like this. On the surface, things change constantly. Relationships begin and end. Health rises and falls. Fortunes shift. Emotions swell and fade. But beneath it all, there is a deeper self, a quiet awareness that watches without judgment. That awareness is your stillness, your anchor in the river of change. A Zen master once compared the mind to a snow globe. Shake it, and everything blurs. Thoughts swirl, emotions rage, clarity vanishes. But set the globe down, and the flakes slowly settle. The scene that was always there is revealed. Stillness is not something you create. It is what appears when you stop shaking. There was a woman who lived much of her life in fear. She worried about the future, regretted the past, and in between, rarely rested. Her body carried the weight of her racing thoughts, her jaw clenched, her shoulders tight, her stomach in knots. At a meditation retreat, she was asked to simply sit and breathe, nothing more. At first, the silence felt unbearable. Her mind screamed louder than ever. But with time, she noticed something remarkable. The thoughts came and went, like clouds. The feelings surged and faded, like waves. And beneath it all, there was a quiet presence that did not change. She discovered a stillness she had never known, one that had always been there, waiting for her to notice. This is the stillness Buddhism speaks of. It is not a special state reserved for saints or monks. It is not escape from life. It is simply the awareness of life as it is, without clinging, without resistance. When you rest in this awareness, change loses its power to overwhelm you. You realize that joy and sorrow, gain and loss, health and illness are all waves on the same ocean. And you are not only the wave, you are the water itself. Let us try this together. Close your eyes. Notice your breath as it rises and falls. Do not try to change it. simply notice. Now, imagine each thought that arises as a cloud drifting across the sky. Some are bright, some dark, some heavy, some light. Watch them move, watch them dissolve. Behind them, the sky remains vast and unchanged. That sky, dear friend, is your awareness. That is your stillness. Life will never stop moving. Your body will age. Your relationships will shift. The world around you will rise and fall in 1,000 ways. But awareness, the quiet witness inside you, remains. When you remember this, you no longer chase stability in what is unstable. You no longer cling to what cannot last. You find peace in the only place it has ever been possible, within. There was once a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors said, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. "How wonderful!" the neighbors cried. Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." The story continues this way. What seems good becomes bad. What seems bad becomes good. The wisdom is simple. Life will change. You cannot control it. But you can remain steady in your response. Stillness is not found in controlling the waves. It is found in remembering you are the ocean. Another story. A monk was asked how he managed to stay calm through so many storms. He said, "Because I do not leave where I am." That is the essence of stillness, not running into the past, not chasing the future, simply staying here. When you are fully present, change does not drag you away. It becomes something you can flow with, something you can trust. But here is an important truth. Stillness does not mean passivity. It does not mean doing nothing. A tree rooted deeply in the earth is still, but it also grows. It bends with the wind, sheds leaves in autumn, blossoms in spring. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is life lived with awareness, rooted in presence, flexible in change. So, dear friend, practice stillness not as an escape, but as a way of being with what is. When joy comes, be present. When sorrow comes, be present. When change sweeps through, let yourself bend, but do not break. The sky does not resist the clouds. The ocean does not resist the waves. You do not need to resist life. You need only to witness it, breathe with it, trust it. Tonight, before sleep, sit quietly for 3 minutes. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe gently. Notice the thoughts that come, the feelings that rise. Do not chase them. Do not resist them. Simply notice and return again to the breath. Whisper silently, "I am the sky. I am the ocean. I am stillness itself." And as you rest, remember, stillness is not something you must earn. It is already within you, beneath every storm, beyond every change, deeper than every wave. Stillness waits, patient, quiet, unshaken. It is your truest home. The freedom of letting go. Dear friend, if impermanence is life's constant rhythm and stillness is the awareness that holds it, then letting go is the key that unlocks freedom. We suffer most not because things change, but because we refuse to release what is already gone. We cling to people, to possessions, to identities, even to pain, as if holding on could preserve them. Yet clinging is like holding water in a clenched fist. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. This does not mean you should not love or care. or be deeply engaged with life. It means that love becomes suffering when you try to freeze it in place, when you demand that it never change. True love, true living, is not clinging, it is allowing. It is opening your hands and letting life flow through them. Think of the tree in autumn. The leaves turn gold, then fall. The tree does not resist. It does not cry out, "These are my leaves, I cannot let them go." It releases, trusting that spring will come again. And in letting go, it conserves its strength, it deepens its roots, it survives the winter. The wisdom of the tree is also your wisdom if you allow yourself to remember. There was a man who held on tightly to anger after a betrayal. He replayed the story endlessly, each time feeling the wound anew. His body grew heavy, his chest tight, his sleep restless. One day, his teacher asked him to carry a stone in his hand everywhere he went. The man agreed. Days passed, and his hand ached. His grip stiffened. He realized that the pain was not in the stone itself, but in his refusal to release it. When he finally dropped it, his hand felt light, free. His anger was the same. It was not the betrayal that continued to wound him, but his clinging to it. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending the pain never happened. It means you choose not to carry it any longer. You place it down gently, with respect, knowing it has taught you what it came to teach. And then you free yourself. There was a woman who lost her partner of 40 years. For months, she clung to his belongings, to his chair at the table, to the rhythm of his absence. She feared that letting go would mean letting him vanish forever. But slowly, she learned that memory and love do not require objects to survive. She gave away his clothes, donated his books, allowed others to carry parts of his life forward. In doing so, she discovered something surprising. The love did not fade. It deepened. It became less about clinging to what was and more about honoring what had been. Letting go did not erase him. It allowed her to breathe again. In Zen practice, letting go is not a single act, but a way of living. Each breath is a lesson. Inhale, exhale. You cannot inhale without exhaling. You cannot take in the new without releasing the old. Every moment asks for this rhythm: receiving, releasing, receiving again. Yet how often do we hold our breath in fear, in resistance, in longing to keep what must pass? Let us pause together. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, hold it gently for a moment. Then let it go, slowly, completely. Feel the release. Notice how your body softens when you exhale fully. This is the practice of life, taking in what nourishes, letting go of what is done. Dear friend, what are you holding right now that is asking to be released? Perhaps an old story of who you were. Perhaps guilt for mistakes long past. Perhaps anger at someone who no longer even remembers the wound. Perhaps fear of what might come. Whatever it is, notice how heavy it feels. Notice how much energy it consumes. And imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to set it down. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength. It takes courage to release what has become familiar, even if it is painful. We cling not only to joy but also to sorrow, because at least it feels known. But freedom lies not in clinging to the known. Freedom lies in stepping into the unknown with trust. A monk once said, "The tighter you hold, the more you suffer. The more you release, the lighter you become." Life will always ask you to release. your youth, your possessions, your roles, your very breath. But if you practice letting go each day in small ways, you will discover that loss is not an enemy, it is a teacher guiding you toward freedom. Try this. Tonight, before sleep, write down on a piece of paper one thing you are ready to release. It might be resentment, or self-criticism, or fear. Fold the paper, hold it to your heart, and whisper, "Thank you for what you have taught me. You are free now, and so am I." Then tear the paper, or place it in water, and let it dissolve. Feel the lightness that follows. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without clinging. You love without chains. You live without fear of loss. Because you understand that nothing is ever truly lost. It only changes form. The person you release becomes memory. The memory becomes wisdom. The wisdom becomes compassion. Nothing is wasted. Everything transforms. So, dear friend, bow to what has come and bow to what has gone. Trust the rhythm. Trust the release. Remember that letting go is not the end. It is the doorway to freedom. And in that freedom, life becomes light again, living fully in the present moment. Dear friend, we have walked together through impermanence, through change, through stillness, through letting go. Now we arrive at the heart of this chapter, the treasure hidden in plain sight, the present moment. If impermanence teaches us that everything changes, then the present moment is the one place where we can truly live. Not in the past, which is memory, not in the future, which is imagination, but here, in this breath, in this body, in this heartbeat. Most of us, without realizing it, live slightly outside our own lives. We replay yesterday's regrets, we rehearse tomorrow's anxieties, and we miss the simple miracle of now. We eat while scrolling our phones, missing the taste. We talk while thinking of something else, missing the connection. We fall asleep worrying and wake already planning. And so life slips by unnoticed, not because it is hidden, but because we are absent. The Buddha taught that presence is medicine, not because it solves every problem, but because it dissolves the suffering we add to problems. Pain may arise in the body, but when you are present, you meet it as it is, without piling on fear or judgment. Sadness may visit the heart, but when you are present, you let it move like rain across the sky. Joy may come, and when you are present, you savor it deeply before it fades. Presence does not stop change. It allows you to live within it fully. There was a man who suffered from chronic illness. For years, he fought against his symptoms, angry at his body, fearful of the future. His suffering grew heavier than his illness itself. One afternoon, sitting beneath a tree, he grew too tired to fight. He simply sat, breathing, watching leaves drift to the ground. In that stillness, something changed. The pain did not vanish, but it became bearable. It became part of the moment, not an enemy, but a companion. His suffering softened because, for once, he was fully present. This is the power of presence. It does not erase reality, but it transforms your relationship to it. You stop living in resistance, and you start living in truth. And truth, even when difficult, is lighter than illusion. Let us pause together now. Take a slow breath in. Feel the air enter your lungs. Exhale and feel your body soften. Look around you. Notice the colors, the shapes, the light. Listen. Notice the sounds near and far. Notice the texture beneath your hands. This is presence, simply being here, without needing to change anything. Zen masters often say, when walking, walk, when eating, eat, when sitting, sit. It sounds simple, even obvious, but how often do we truly do just one thing? When walking, our minds are elsewhere. When eating, our attention is on our screens. When sitting, our thoughts are racing into past or future. To live fully in the present moment means to return again and again to what is actually happening, instead of living in the stories of what was or might be. A woman once described her discovery of presence as tasting food for the first time. She had eaten thousands of meals, but one day in a mindfulness practice, she was asked to take a single bite of a raisin and notice everything: the texture, the sweetness, the way it softened as she chewed. Tears filled her eyes. I realized, she said, that I had been eating my whole life without tasting. Presence is like that. It reveals the richness already here, the beauty we overlook in our constant rush. Presence also changes how we relate to others. When you are truly present with someone, you do not just hear their words, you feel their heart. You notice the pauses, the expressions, the quiet between the sentences. People can feel when you are present. It is the greatest gift you can offer. More than advice, more than solutions, presence says, "You matter, I am here." But presence is not always easy. The mind is restless, always searching for problems to solve, always leaping into past or future. Do not be discouraged by this. Presence is not about stopping thoughts. It is about not being carried away by them. Let thoughts come and go like clouds. Let feelings rise and fall like waves. Stay rooted in awareness, in the body, in the breath. Here is a simple practice. Set a timer for 3 minutes. For those 3 minutes, breathe gently, and with each inhale say silently, "Here." With each exhale, "Now." When the mind wanders, gently return. After 3 minutes, notice how you feel. You may not feel bliss. You may feel only a little more grounded, a little more steady. That is enough. Presence grows like a muscle, through practice, through patience. Dear friend, presence is not something you must create. It is something you uncover. It is always here, waiting, beneath the noise of thought. Like the sun behind the clouds, it never leaves. When you return to presence, you return to yourself. You remember that you are not your regrets, not your worries, not your endless stories. You are this breath, this awareness, this living being in this living moment. So tonight, before you sleep, place your hand on your heart. Take one slow breath. Whisper softly, "This moment is enough." Feel the relief that comes with that. You do not need to fix the past tonight. You do not need to solve the future. You only need to rest here, in the miracle of now. And tomorrow, as you rise, carry this with you. Life is not lived in the memories of yesterday or the worries of tomorrow. Life is lived here. Each step, each sip, each breath is sacred if you are present for it. Dear friend, the present moment is your truest home. Return to it often, live in it fully, for it is the only place where joy can be savored, where sorrow can be softened, where healing can begin. This moment is your life. Do not miss it. The power of compassion. Dear friend, if impermanence teaches us to let go, and presence teaches us to return home, then compassion is the thread that weaves these lessons into a life of meaning. Without compassion, wisdom can become cold, detached, even harsh. With compassion, wisdom becomes warm, human, and healing. Compassion is the bridge between suffering and peace. It is the medicine that heals not only the one who receives, but also the one who gives. The Buddha taught that compassion, karuna, is at the heart of awakening. To see clearly is to see suffering, not only in yourself, but in all beings. To awaken is to open your heart to this suffering, not with despair, but with love. Compassion does not mean pity. It does not mean rescuing others from their path. It means standing with them in their pain, seeing their humanity, and silently whispering, "You are not alone." Think of the last time someone truly listened to you, not while checking their phone, not while planning what to say next, but fully present, eyes soft, heart open. Do you remember how it felt? As though your burden was suddenly lighter, simply because it was shared. That is compassion. It does not always fix circumstances, but it changes the quality of the moment. It brings light into darkness, warmth into coldness, hope into despair. There was a man who carried years of shame. He had made mistakes in his youth, choices that haunted him. He tried to hide his past, fearing rejection if anyone knew. For years, he felt unworthy of love. Then one evening, he finally confessed to a close friend, trembling, waiting for judgment. His friend did not scold him, did not walk away. He simply held his hand and said, "I see you, I'm still here." In that moment, years of shame softened. Compassion broke through the walls he had built, reminding him that he was still worthy, still lovable, still human. This is the power of compassion. It transforms pain not by erasing it, but by holding it tenderly until it begins to heal. But let us not forget, compassion must begin at home. Many of us find it easier to offer compassion to others than to ourselves. We forgive others, but not ourselves. We comfort others, but we criticize ourselves. We hold space for everyone else's pain, but we silence our own. Dear friend, the Buddha reminded us again and again, you yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and compassion. Think of how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake. Do you say, "I'm stupid, I'll never learn, I'm hopeless"? Would you speak this way to a child, to a beloved friend? Then why do you speak this way to yourself? Self-compassion is not indulgence, it is sanity. It is the ground of healing. Without it, we remain at war within ourselves. There was a woman who struggled with perfectionism. No matter what she did, it never felt enough. Her body was exhausted, her spirit weary. One day, her teacher asked her to place her hand on her heart and simply repeat, "I am doing my best, and my best is enough." She wept. It felt foreign, almost impossible, to speak kindly to herself. But over time, those words became medicine. Her body softened, her mind quieted, her heart began to trust itself again. Compassion is both simple and radical. It asks us to look at suffering directly instead of turning away. It asks us to soften when our instinct is to harden. It asks us to listen instead of fix, to hold instead of judge. And in this softening, something extraordinary happens: connection. When we open to another's suffering, we realize that our pain and theirs are not separate. We begin to see that we all belong to the same web of existence, each one of us tender, flawed, and beautiful in our humanity. Let us pause here for a practice. Close your eyes. Picture yourself as a child, small and tender, perhaps lonely, perhaps afraid. See this child clearly. Now place your hand on your heart and whisper, "I'm sorry you've suffered. I see you. I love you." Stay with this image. Notice what stirs within you. This is self-compassion, the first step to offering compassion to the world. Now, picture someone you care for deeply. Whisper the same words, "I'm sorry you've suffered. I see you. I love you." Notice how your heart responds, how it softens. Finally, picture someone you struggle with, perhaps someone who has hurt you. Without forcing, whisper gently, "I'm sorry you've suffered. I see you. I love you." Perhaps you cannot feel it yet. That is okay. Compassion grows slowly, like a seed watered over time. Even the attempt is healing. Dear friend, compassion is not weakness. It is the greatest strength. It takes courage to feel, to open, to remain tender in a world that often numbs. But when you choose compassion, you become a refuge not only for others but for yourself. Your presence becomes healing. Your love becomes medicine. The Buddha once said, "Just as a mother protects her child with her life, so with boundless heart should one cherish all living beings." This is not poetry. It is instruction. To live compassionately is to live as if every being were your own child, deserving of care, dignity, and love. Even the difficult ones, even yourself. So tonight, before sleep, try this practice. Place both hands on your heart. Take 3 slow breaths. Whisper softly, "May I be free from suffering. May I be at peace." Then extend it outward. "May you be free from suffering. May you be at peace." Picture these words rippling outward like waves, touching every being, friends, strangers, enemies, animals, the earth itself. Imagine the world softening, even just a little, with each breath. Dear friend, compassion is not a luxury. It is the very path of awakening. Without it, wisdom is incomplete. With it, even the smallest act becomes sacred. A smile, a touch, a kind word, these are not small. They are everything. So let compassion be your guide, toward yourself, toward others, toward the world. And watch as the hard edges of life begin to soften, revealing the truth that has always been waiting. We are all connected. We are all worthy. We are all loved. Compassion as shared humanity. Dear friend, when we speak of compassion, it is easy to imagine it as something lofty, distant, reserved for saints or holy figures. But compassion is not extraordinary. It is the most ordinary, most natural expression of our shared humanity. To be human is to suffer. To be human is to long for love, for safety, for belonging. Compassion is simply the recognition that what hurts in me also hurts in you, that your longing is not separate from mine. The Buddha taught that suffering is the great equalizer. No one escapes it, rich or poor, powerful or weak, young or old. Every being knows loss, fear, and uncertainty. And because suffering is universal, compassion is universal. It does not belong to one religion, one culture, one time. It is the thread that ties all hearts together. Think of the last time you saw someone cry in public, perhaps a stranger on a train, perhaps a child on the street. Do you remember how your heart softened, how instinctively you wanted to reach out, even if you did not know what to say? That impulse, that tenderness, is compassion. It rises naturally when we allow ourselves to feel. Yet often we resist. We tell ourselves, "It's not my business," or "I don't know what to do." Sometimes we harden because their pain mirrors our own and we are afraid to feel it. But compassion does not require fixing. It does not require perfect words. It requires presence, simply being willing to see, to sit beside, to acknowledge. There was a nurse who worked in a hospice. Day after day, she sat with people in their final weeks of life. At first, she worried she would not know what to say, but she discovered that words were rarely needed. A hand held, a silence shared, a simple, "I'm here with you," was enough. Her patients often told her, "Thank you for not leaving me alone." That is compassion in its truest form, not the power to erase pain, but the courage to stay with it. Compassion also reminds us that no one is the enemy. Even those who hurt us are acting from their own wounds. Anger, cruelty, and violence are often twisted cries for love. This does not excuse harm, but it helps us see beyond it. When we look at another and say, "You too suffer, you too long for peace," something shifts. Hatred softens, understanding grows. A monk once said, "Compassion is seeing yourself in others. When you look into the eyes of another and recognize your own fear, your own longing, your own tenderness, you cannot help but soften. The barriers of me and you begin to dissolve." Let us try a practice together. Close your eyes. Picture someone you love deeply. See their face. Whisper silently, "Just like me, you know joy. Just like me, you know pain. Just like me, you long to be happy." Now picture a stranger, someone you do not know. Whisper the same words. Finally, picture someone with whom you struggle, perhaps someone who has hurt you. This may be difficult, but try. Just like me, you know joy. Just like me, you know pain. Just like me, you long to be happy. Notice what shifts inside you. Compassion grows when we see that others are not so different from ourselves. There was once a king who asked a wise teacher how to rule with justice. The teacher said, "See every subject as yourself. See their hunger as your hunger, their sorrow as your sorrow, their joy as your joy. Rule with that in your heart, and you will rule wisely." The same is true for each of us. When we live with compassion, we live not only for ourselves, but for the whole. But dear friend, compassion does not mean sacrificing yourself endlessly. True compassion includes you. It means giving when you can and resting when you must. It means offering love without depleting your own. Compassion is a river. It must flow both inward and outward. If you give endlessly without receiving, the river runs dry. If you only receive and never give, the river stagnates. Balance keeps the waters alive. There was a woman who cared tirelessly for her family. She cooked, cleaned, worked, comforted, but never allowed herself rest. Over time, her body weakened, her spirit dimmed. She realized she had misunderstood compassion. She was offering love to everyone except herself. When she finally began to rest, to nourish her own body, to listen to her own needs, her compassion deepened. She could give again, but now from fullness, not from exhaustion. Self-compassion and compassion for others are not separate. They are one river with two shores. So, dear friend, remember this. Compassion is not pity. It is not martyrdom. It is not endless sacrifice. Compassion is the recognition of shared humanity, the willingness to soften towards suffering, whether it is yours or another's. It is the simple act of saying, "You are not alone. We belong to each other." Tonight, as you close your eyes, try this gentle practice. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper softly, "May I be free from suffering. May I know peace." Then picture someone you love. May you be free from suffering. May you know peace. Then extend it further to strangers, to those who have hurt you, to the entire world. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace. Feel the waves ripple outward, then return inward. This is compassion, simple, ordinary, universal, and in its simplicity lies its extraordinary power. The courage to feel with others. Dear friend, compassion is not only tenderness, it is also courage. To feel with another, to let their pain enter your heart, is one of the bravest acts a human can make. Many of us spend our lives building walls, hoping to protect ourselves from being hurt. But walls do not only keep out pain, they also keep out love. Compassion is the choice to open the gate, to let life in, to risk feeling deeply so that we may live deeply. The Buddha never promised that awakening would protect us from sorrow. He promised instead that awakening would give us the strength to meet sorrow with an open heart. Compassion is that strength. It is the willingness to sit beside someone in their darkest night and whisper, "I cannot take this away, but I will not leave you." Think of the times you have sat with someone grieving. Maybe you wanted to find the perfect words, but words felt small. Maybe you wished you could fix what was broken, but it was beyond your control. And yet, if you stayed, if you simply offered your presence, you gave them something priceless. You gave them courage to face their pain, knowing they did not face it alone. There was a story of a young monk who found an old woman weeping on the roadside. He asked her what was wrong, and she poured out her grief. Her son had died, her home was gone, her heart was shattered. The monk, barely older than her son, had no answers. So he sat beside her and wept too. Later, when asked what teaching he gave her, he said, "None. I gave her my tears." Sometimes compassion is not solutions, but shared humanity. This kind of compassion takes courage because it asks us to feel what we would rather avoid. When we see suffering, our first impulse may be to turn away, to distract ourselves, to numb. But when we stay, when we lean in, we allow ourselves to be moved. And in being moved, we discover the deeper truth, that the suffering of another is not separate from our own. Their pain touches something within us because, in some way, it is also ours. A nurse once described how she survived decades of caring for the sick and dying. "I learned not to harden," she said. "I let myself cry with them, laugh with them, pray with them. I stopped trying to be strong in the old way, and instead I became strong in a new way, the strength of staying soft." That is the courage of compassion, not hardening to protect yourself, but staying tender enough to connect. But compassion is not only for great sorrows, it lives in the small acts too. Smiling at a stranger, listening without interrupting, noticing when someone is tired and offering them your seat. These moments matter because they require you to step out of your own small bubble of self and feel with another. They remind you that you are part of a larger story, a web of connection that holds us all. Let us pause for a practice together. Close your eyes. Bring to mind someone you know who is struggling right now. Picture their face, their body, their pain. Breathe in, imagining you are breathing in their suffering. Breathe out, imagining you are sending them relief, warmth, peace. Inhale their sorrow, exhale your love. Do this for a few breaths. Notice how it feels, perhaps heavy, perhaps tender, perhaps both. This is a practice called Tonglen, a way of training the heart to expand, to grow strong enough to carry not only your own suffering, but to hold the suffering of others with courage. At first, this may seem overwhelming. How can we carry so much pain? But here is the secret. Compassion does not add to your burden, it transforms it. When you let your heart open, suffering is no longer a private prison. It becomes a shared human experience. And in that sharing, it lightens. There was once a man consumed by grief after losing his child. He isolated himself, convinced no one could understand. Then one evening, he attended a grief circle where others spoke their stories of loss. He listened, he wept, he saw his own pain reflected in theirs. For the first time, he felt less alone. His sorrow did not vanish, but it became bearable. Compassion gave him courage to keep living. This is why compassion is courage. It dares to feel what is hard. It dares to stay present when everything in us wants to flee. And it is precisely this courage that makes healing possible. Pain carried alone festers. Pain shared becomes lighter. So, dear friend, do not underestimate the power of your presence. You do not need answers. You do not need perfection. You need only the courage to feel with others, to sit in silence, to offer a hand, to let your heart break open and know that it will heal stronger, wider, more spacious than before. Tonight, as you rest, try this. Think of someone who may be struggling. Send them a silent wish. May you be free from suffering. May you be held in love. May you find peace. Feel the warmth of this wish in your own heart. This is the courage of compassion. It blesses not only the one you think of, but also yourself. Dear friend, compassion is not weakness. It is not sentimentality. It is the bravest act of all. To feel with others, to keep your heart open in a world that often numbs, to dare to love when it would be easier to turn away. This is the courage that changes everything. Compassion as the path to forgiveness. Dear friend, compassion is not only the courage to feel with others, it is also the doorway to forgiveness. Without compassion, forgiveness feels impossible. With compassion, forgiveness becomes not an obligation, but a natural unfolding of the heart. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many believe it means excusing harm, denying injustice, or pretending the wound was never real. But that is not forgiveness, that is avoidance. True forgiveness does not erase the past. It does not condone the hurt. It simply releases your heart from carrying the poison of resentment. Forgiveness is freedom, not for the one who hurt you, but for you. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Resentment is heavy. It knots the body, clouds the mind, drains the spirit. And yet, so many of us cling to it, believing that if we hold on tightly enough, it will protect us from being hurt again. But resentment does not protect, it imprisons. There was a man whose brother betrayed him in business, leaving him in financial ruin. For years, he carried bitterness like a shield. He told himself that forgiveness would make him weak, that it would let his brother off the hook. But one night, lying awake, he realized that his brother's betrayal was no longer harming him. It was his own resentment that was causing the pain. His brother had moved on. He was the one still carrying the wound. Slowly, painfully, he began the process of forgiveness. Not for his brother, but for himself. He whispered, "I release you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." And with time, the bitterness loosened. His heart grew light again. This is compassion in action, seeing that those who harm us often act out of their own suffering. This does not excuse them, but it allows us to recognize that hurt people hurt people. When you see someone's cruelty as the symptom of their own pain, your hatred softens. You realize that their actions say less about you and more about their own wounds. Compassion gives you the perspective to forgive. But dear friend, forgiveness is not always immediate. It may take months, years, or a lifetime. It is not something you force, it is something you allow. It begins as a seed, the willingness to let go of hatred, even if you are not ready yet. That willingness is enough. The seed will grow in its own time. There was a woman who survived deep betrayal in her marriage. At first, forgiveness felt impossible. She could not even imagine it. But through meditation, she began to send compassion, not directly to her partner, but first to herself. May I be free from suffering. May I heal. May I find peace. She practiced this daily until her own heart softened. Only then could she extend compassion outward. May he too be free from suffering. May he find peace. Forgiveness grew not as a single act, but as a gradual flowering of compassion. Forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. Sometimes the most compassionate thing is to walk away, to protect yourself from further harm. But even from a distance, you can forgive. You can release the poison in your own heart. You can wish the other well, even if they are no longer part of your life. Forgiveness is not about staying, it is about freeing. Let us pause here for a practice. Close your eyes. Think of someone who has hurt you. Notice the feelings that arise: anger, grief, fear. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper softly, "This pain is real. I acknowledge it." Take a breath. Then whisper, "May I be free from the burden of this resentment." Do not rush. Do not force. Simply offer the wish. Forgiveness begins here, with the desire to be free. Dear friend, remember also that forgiveness must include yourself. How often do you replay mistakes from years ago, punishing yourself again and again for choices you cannot change? How often do you call yourself names, deny yourself kindness, believe you are unworthy because of the past? This too is suffering, and compassion invites you to let it go. A monk once said, "The hardest person to forgive is the one in the mirror." But when you forgive yourself, you release not only your own heart, you release everyone around you, because a heart softened by self-forgiveness becomes more patient, more gentle, more compassionate with others. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, try this. Place both hands over your chest. Whisper softly, "I forgive myself for not being perfect. I forgive myself for being human. I forgive myself for mistakes I cannot change. I release the weight. I allow myself peace." Breathe into these words. Let them sink into your body. Notice how it feels to speak kindly to yourself, perhaps for the first time in years. Compassion leads to forgiveness. Forgiveness leads to freedom, and freedom allows love to flow again. Without forgiveness, the heart stays closed. With forgiveness, it opens. And when the heart opens, healing begins. Dear friend, forgiveness is not easy, but it is possible. It begins not with the other, but with you. And each step you take toward it, each breath of compassion, each whisper of release, brings you closer to the peace you deserve. Compassion as the way we heal the world. Dear friend, we have explored compassion as tenderness, as courage, as forgiveness. Now we arrive at its fullest expression, compassion as a force that heals not just the individual heart, but the entire world. For while suffering often feels private and lonely, compassion reveals that none of us are truly separate. The pain of one is the pain of all. The healing of one ripples outward into the whole. The Buddha taught the principle of interbeing. Everything arises in dependence upon everything else. No leaf grows without the sun, the rain, the soil, the unseen web of conditions that sustain it. In the same way, no person exists in isolation. We are threads in a vast fabric, each one touching, shaping, supporting the others. Compassion is the awareness of this truth, lived out in action. When you ease another's burden, you ease your own. When you bring peace to one corner of the world, you bring peace everywhere. Consider the simple act of smiling at a stranger. You may never know the impact. Perhaps they were weighed down by despair, and your kindness reminded them that they were seen. Perhaps your smile softened their anger, which might have spilled onto someone else. Compassion works like this, quietly, invisibly, powerfully. Small ripples become great waves. There was once a man who sat each morning on a bench outside the grocery store, greeting people as they passed. "Good morning," he said. "How are you?" At first, people ignored him, suspicious of his cheer. But over time, they began to smile back, to stop, to share a few words. Mothers with crying babies found comfort in his gentleness. Tired workers found a spark of joy in his warmth. Children laughed at his playful greetings. He was not solving world hunger or ending wars. He was offering compassion in its simplest form, presence. And in doing so, he transformed his community, one greeting at a time. Compassion is not measured by scale, it is measured by sincerity. A single act of kindness, born of genuine care, carries more power than the grandest act performed for recognition. A glass of water to the thirsty, a listening ear for the lonely, a gentle word to someone who feels invisible. These are not small things, they are the fabric of healing. But compassion also requires us to see beyond our immediate circle. It invites us to recognize the suffering of those we may never meet, the refugee fleeing war, the prisoner forgotten behind bars, the animal suffering silently, the earth itself groaning under the weight of neglect. When our compassion expands to include all beings, our lives become acts of service. Not because we must, but because we cannot help it. The heart, once opened, cannot be contained. There was a woman who spent her life teaching in a small village. She had no wealth, no fame, but every child she taught carried her compassion into the world. Years later, doctors, artists, parents, leaders, all remembered her kindness. She did not know it, but her compassion had multiplied through them, touching countless lives beyond her own. This is the hidden power of compassion. It spreads. Like a candle lighting another candle, It loses nothing, but multiplies light endlessly. Compassion is not about fixing everything. It is about refusing to add to the harm. It is about saying, I will not turn away. I will not harden. I will choose love, again and again, even when it is difficult. The world does not change only through policies or revolutions. It changes through hearts that choose compassion over cruelty, tenderness over indifference, presence over absence. Let us pause for a practice together. Close your eyes. Picture the earth itself, the forests, the oceans, the cities, the faces of countless beings. Imagine holding the world gently in your hands. Whisper silently, may all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace. May all beings remember love. Feel the warmth of these words radiate outward. Even if the world does not hear them, your heart does. And your heart, softened by compassion, will carry this energy into everything you do. Compassion also heals the healer. Many who give endlessly without compassion for themselves burn out, growing bitter or exhausted. But when compassion flows both inward and outward, it renews itself. Each act of kindness strengthens the giver as much as the receiver. Each word of forgiveness frees the one who speaks as much as the one forgiven. Compassion is not depletion, it is replenishment. A doctor once described how, after decades of practicing medicine, he avoided burnout not by hardening, but by softening. I let myself feel, he said. I let myself grieve with my patients, rejoice with them, pray with them. Their suffering broke me open, and in that openness I found strength. Compassion does not close the heart to survive. It opens the heart to thrive. Dear friend, imagine if every person on this earth practiced even a small act of compassion each day. Imagine if leaders ruled with compassion, if neighbors spoke with compassion, if we treated the earth with compassion. Wars would soften, greed would diminish, loneliness would dissolve. We may never see a perfect world, but we can see a better one, and compassion is the path there. So tonight, before sleep, try this. Think of 3 small acts of compassion you can offer tomorrow. Perhaps smiling at a stranger, perhaps calling someone who feels alone, perhaps pausing to thank your body for carrying you. Write them down, commit to them, and notice how even the smallest acts change the texture of your day. Dear friend, compassion is not only a feeling, it is a practice. It is not only a practice, it is a way of being. And when you live compassionately, you become a light for the world, reminding others of their own light. The Buddha said, if you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path. Let your life be that lamp. Let compassion guide your words, your actions, your silences, your choices, and watch as the world begins, slowly but surely, to heal. The path of inner peace. Dear friend, if compassion is the light we offer to the world, then inner peace is the flame that must be tended within. Without inner peace, compassion burns out. Without inner peace, wisdom is clouded. Without inner peace, even joy feels fleeting. The Buddha's path was never about escaping life. It was about discovering a peace so steady, so profound, that it remains unshaken no matter what storms arise. When we speak of peace, many imagine a life free of conflict, illness, or loss. But such a life does not exist. To live is to encounter difficulty. True peace does not mean the absence of storms. It means finding the calm that exists, even as the storms rage. It means remembering that you are not the waves, you are the ocean. Consider the mountain. Winds howl, snow falls, rain lashes its slopes, but the mountain remains, still, steady, rooted. When we cultivate inner peace, we become like the mountain. Circumstances may swirl around us, but inside there is a strength that cannot be moved. There was once a monk who lived in a busy city monastery. The streets outside were noisy, the days full of activity. People often asked him how he managed to remain so calm amid the chaos. He would smile and say, "The chaos is outside. Inside, I am quiet." Inner peace is not found in controlling the outer world. It is discovered in quieting the inner one. But how do we find this peace? The Buddha gave us clear instructions. Presence is the first step. When we return to the breath, the body, the here and now, we create space between ourselves and the storms of thought. Compassion is the second step. When we meet ourselves with kindness, our inner world softens. We stop waging war against ourselves. And wisdom is the third step. When we see impermanence clearly, we stop clinging to what must change, and peace arises naturally. A woman once came to a Zen teacher, overwhelmed by grief after losing her child. "I cannot find peace," she said through tears. The teacher handed her a cup of tea and asked her to drink. As she sipped, he said gently, "Peace is not the absence of sorrow, it is the presence of acceptance." Her grief did not vanish, but in that moment she saw that she could hold her sorrow with tenderness instead of fighting it. That was the beginning of her healing. Peace begins with acceptance, not passive resignation, but deep acknowledgement. This is here, this is real, and I can be with it. When we stop resisting what is, when we stop saying, "This should not be happening," we free ourselves from half of our suffering. The pain remains, but the resistance dissolves, and what remains is lighter, gentler, more bearable. Let us pause for a practice. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, whisper silently, "I am safe in this moment. I allow this moment to be as it is." Feel the shift as you release the urge to fight reality. Feel how your body softens when you allow instead of resist. Peace also comes from letting go of constant judgment. How often do you criticize yourself, compare yourself, scold yourself for not being enough? This inner war robs you of peace more than any outer circumstance. Imagine if you spoke to yourself as you would to a dear friend, gently, patiently, kindly. This shift alone can transform your inner world. There was a man who spent years meditating, chasing enlightenment, but he was always harsh with himself, always demanding more. One day, his teacher told him, "You will never find peace by scolding yourself into it. You will find peace by loving yourself into it." From that day, his practice changed. He sat not to force progress, but to befriend himself, and slowly, peace bloomed. Dear friend, peace is your natural state. It is not something you must achieve. It is already here, beneath the noise of thought, beneath the waves of emotion. Like the sky behind the clouds, it never leaves. When you return to the present, when you soften with compassion, when you see with wisdom, you uncover the peace that was waiting all along. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, try this. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe slowly. Whisper softly, "I am enough. This moment is enough. Peace is here." Let the words sink into you like water into thirsty soil. Inner peace is not far away. It is not a goal for tomorrow. It is here, now, in this breath. And each time you return to it, you remember who you truly are, not the storm, not the struggle, but the calm awareness that holds it all. Dear friend, walk this path gently. Let peace be the ground beneath your feet, the breath in your lungs, the rhythm of your heart. And know that no matter how the world shifts, this inner refuge can never be taken from you. The practice of acceptance. Dear friend, inner peace is not found in controlling life. It is found in accepting life. Acceptance is the gentle art of bowing to reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from the stories we tell about what happens. Pain is real. Loss is real. Change is real. But suffering multiplies when we resist, when we declare, "This should not be happening." Acceptance is the practice of loosening that grip and whispering instead, "This too belongs." At first, acceptance may sound like giving up, but it is not surrender to defeat. It is surrender to truth. It is saying yes to life in all its colors, joy and sorrow, ease and struggle, gain and loss. Acceptance allows you to meet reality directly, without distortion. And when you meet reality, you can respond with wisdom instead of fear. There was a woman diagnosed with a chronic illness. At first, she fought it with all her might, desperate to control the uncontrollable. Each day became a battle. Her suffering was not only the illness itself, but the constant story that her life was ruined. One day, exhausted, she stopped fighting. She sat quietly and said aloud, "This is my body, this is my life, this is here." In that moment, something shifted. The illness did not vanish, but her war with it did. And in that space, she found peace. She learned to live not against her body, but with it. Acceptance is not passive. It does not mean you stop caring or that you stop seeking healing. It means you stop adding resistance to the pain that is already here. You take wise action not from fear, but from clarity. You see what can be changed, and you release what cannot. You conserve your strength for what matters, instead of wasting it in endless struggle. A monk once said, "When the rain falls, I let it fall. When the sun shines, I let it shine." He did not mean he never sought shelter in storms or shade in summer. He meant he stopped arguing with the weather of life. He took care of himself wisely, but without complaint. He accepted what was beyond his control, and in that acceptance, he discovered peace. Acceptance also applies to emotions. How often do you tell yourself, "I shouldn't feel this way. I should be stronger, happier, calmer"? These judgments add suffering to the feelings themselves. Anger is not the problem. Sadness is not the problem. Fear is not the problem. The problem is our resistance, our shame, our self-criticism. Acceptance means allowing the emotion to arise, to be felt, and to pass, without labeling it as wrong. Let us try a practice together. Close your eyes. Bring to mind an emotion you have been resisting, perhaps sadness, perhaps fear, perhaps anger. Feel where it lives in your body. Place your hand there. Whisper softly, It's okay. You are allowed to be here. Breathe with it. Notice how, when met with acceptance, the emotion begins to soften. It may not vanish, but it loosens its grip. It no longer needs to scream for attention because it has been acknowledged. Acceptance also transforms relationships. So often we suffer because we expect others to be different. We want them to act as we would act, love as we would love, change on our timeline. When they don't, we resist, resent, complain. But true love is rooted in acceptance. It sees clearly, this is who you are in this moment. I do not need to control you to love you. Acceptance does not mean tolerating harm. Boundaries are still necessary, but it means letting go of the illusion that we can mold others to fit our desires. There was a father whose son chose a path very different from the one he imagined. For years, he criticized, argued, tried to force change. The distance between them grew. One day, weary of conflict, he decided simply to listen. He sat with his son, asked questions, and allowed him to be who he was. Slowly, the walls crumbled. Their bond deepened, not because the son changed, but because the father did. Acceptance restored what resistance had broken. Dear friend, acceptance does not mean liking everything. You do not have to like illness or loss or injustice, but you can accept that they exist, that they are part of this life, that they are here. Acceptance is the first step toward wise action. Without it, you are lost in denial and anger. With it, you can see clearly, act skillfully, and rest peacefully in what cannot be changed. Let us pause once more, take a deep breath, whisper silently, I accept this moment as it is. Feel how your body softens. Acceptance is not a thought, it is an embodied shift, a loosening of the tight grip you hold on life. There was once a story told of a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors cried, "What terrible luck!" The farmer simply said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. "What wonderful luck," the neighbors said. Again, the farmer replied, "Maybe." The story continues this way. What seems like blessing becomes curse. What seems like curse becomes blessing. The lesson is clear. Life is beyond our control. The only wisdom is acceptance. Dear friend, what are you resisting right now? Is it your body, your past, someone you love? Notice the weight of that resistance. Notice how it drains your strength. Now imagine setting it down, just for this moment. Imagine whispering, "I don't need to fight you anymore. I can let you be." That is acceptance. And in acceptance, peace is born. So tonight, before sleep, place your hand on your heart. Whisper softly, "May I accept myself. May I accept this life. May I find peace in what is." Let these words settle deep within you. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is waking up. It is the doorway to inner peace. And once you step through, the world inside you begins to soften, and the world outside begins to change. The simplicity of mindfulness. Dear friend, if peace arises from acceptance, then mindfulness is the way we practice that acceptance moment by moment. Mindfulness is the art of paying attention, not with judgment, not with grasping, but with gentle presence. It is the practice of being here, fully, with what is, instead of being lost in what was or what might be. The Buddha often compared mindfulness to a lamp. In the dark, everything feels uncertain, overwhelming. But when a lamp is lit, we see clearly. Nothing has changed in the room, but our relationship to it changes. Mindfulness is this lamp for the mind. It does not erase pain or chase away difficulty. It illuminates them so we can see clearly, and in that clarity, peace arises. Most of us spend our days in distraction. We eat without tasting, walk without noticing, breathe without feeling. Our minds race ahead to the next task, the next worry, the next plan. We live in mental time travel, rarely anchored in the now. Mindfulness brings us home. It says gently, "This moment is your life. Do not miss it." There was a man who always rushed through his days. He ate quickly, worked frantically, slept restlessly. His body ached, his mind spun, his joy vanished. One day, he was invited to a mindfulness retreat. The first practice was to eat a single raisin slowly, noticing its texture, its sweetness, the way it softened in his mouth. Tears filled his eyes. "I realized," he said, "that I had been eating for 50 years without ever tasting." That single raisin became his teacher, reminding him that joy lives in the smallest details, if only we are present. Mindfulness transforms the ordinary into the sacred. Washing dishes is no longer a chore, but a meditation, the warmth of the water, the scent of soap, the circular rhythm of your hands. Walking to the mailbox becomes a pilgrimage, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the sound of birds, the touch of air. Drinking tea becomes a ceremony, the rising steam, the taste, the gratitude. Life does not need to be extraordinary to be precious. It needs to be noticed. But mindfulness is not only about savoring beauty, it is also about meeting pain with presence. When sadness arises, mindfulness allows you to feel it fully without being consumed. When fear arises, mindfulness allows you to see it clearly without being ruled by it. When anger arises, mindfulness creates a pause between impulse and action. In that pause, wisdom can speak. There was a woman who struggled with chronic anxiety. Her chest buzzed constantly, her breath shallow, her thoughts racing. She tried to push it away, but the harder she fought, the stronger it grew. Through mindfulness practice, she was taught to simply notice, "This is anxiety. This is how it feels in my body." She placed her hand on her chest and breathed. She did not try to force it away. She did not judge herself. She simply stayed present, and slowly the anxiety softened, not vanished, but transformed from enemy into messenger. Mindfulness is not complicated. It is simple, though not always easy. The mind will wander 1,000 times. That is its nature. The practice is not to stop wandering, but to return gently, again and again. Each return is a victory. Each return strengthens the muscle of presence. Let us practice together now. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Notice the air entering your nose, filling your lungs, leaving your body. Feel your belly rise and fall. When a thought arises, simply notice thinking. Then return to the breath. When a feeling arises, notice feeling. Then return to the breath. Do this for a few moments. Notice how, even in this short time, the body begins to soften, the mind begins to settle. In Zen monasteries, mindfulness is woven into every act. Sweeping the floor, chopping vegetables, bowing at the door, all are done with full presence. Nothing is beneath attention. Nothing is rushed. The monks understand The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And if you can be mindful in small things, you can be mindful in great ones. Dear friend, mindfulness is not about achieving special states. It is about remembering to live. It is about being here for your own life. When you are mindful, you realize that the cup of tea, the sunset, the sound of rain, the smile of a stranger, these are not interruptions. They are the fabric of life itself. Mindfulness also nurtures compassion. When you are mindful, you notice your own pain, your own needs, and you treat yourself with care. And when you are mindful with others, you listen deeply, you see clearly, you respond with love instead of reactivity. Mindfulness creates space for compassion to bloom. So tonight, before sleep, try this. As you lie in bed, place one hand on your belly and one on your heart. Breathe slowly. Whisper silently. Breathing in, I know I am alive. Breathing out, I smile at this life. Repeat for a few breaths. Feel the simplicity of this practice. Peace does not need to be complicated. It begins here, in this breath, in this moment. Dear friend, mindfulness is the key that unlocks the door to inner peace. It is not something you must master in a day. It is a lifelong practice, a gentle returning. Each time you remember to be here, you heal a little more. Each time you choose presence over distraction, you awaken a little more. And over time, these moments of mindfulness weave together into a life of peace. This moment is enough. This breath is enough. You are enough. The strength of surrender. Dear friend, if mindfulness is the daily practice of peace, surrender is its deepest expression. To surrender does not mean to give up on life. It does not mean to stop trying, to fall into passivity, or to accept injustice. True surrender is the willingness to release the illusion of control, to trust the current of life rather than fighting against it. It is saying with your whole being, I will flow with what is, instead of exhausting myself against it. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from clinging, our desperate attempt to hold on to what must change. Surrender is the opposite. It is opening the hands, loosening the heart, and bowing to reality. When we surrender, we discover a strength greater than control, the strength of harmony. Imagine the river. When it meets a rock, it does not resist or rage. It flows around, finding another way. The river does not abandon its destination. It continues forward with patience and persistence. This is surrender, not weakness, but wisdom. The river knows its nature. It trusts the flow. There was a man who spent years trying to control every detail of his life. He planned each day to perfection, demanded outcomes from others, clung to his routines. But when life shifted, a sudden illness, a relationship ending, he crumbled. He had built his peace on control, and when control was lost, peace vanished. Only when he learned to surrender did he find freedom. He discovered that he could not control the waves, but he could learn to surf them. He could not command the winds, but he could adjust his sails. His life became lighter, not because it was easier, but because he no longer fought every storm. Surrender is also the strength to admit, I don't know. How often do we burden ourselves with the need for certainty, demanding answers where none can be found? We want guarantees about health, about love, about the future. But life does not give guarantees. It gives moments, and in surrendering the need to know, we find peace in the mystery. A Zen story tells of a student who asked his teacher for the secret of peace. The teacher replied, "Don't fight life." The student pressed further, "But what if life brings me sorrow?" The teacher smiled gently, "Then let sorrow be your teacher." Surrender is not the end of effort. It is the end of struggle against what already is. Let us pause for a practice. Close your eyes. Imagine holding tightly to something, perhaps an old story, a fear, a resentment. Feel the tension in your body as you grip it. Now imagine opening your hand, letting it fall away. Notice the release. Whisper softly, "I surrender. I trust life to carry me." Breathe into that softness. This is surrender, not defeat, but freedom. Dear friend, surrender also means allowing yourself to be supported. How often do you carry the weight of the world alone, refusing help, insisting you must be strong? True strength is not isolation. It is interconnection. The tree stands tall not by itself, but because its roots intertwine with the forest. You too are held by friends, by family, by the earth itself. To surrender is to allow yourself to lean, to rest, to be carried when you are tired. There was a woman who had spent her life caring for others. She never asked for help, believing it was weakness. When she fell ill, she was forced to rely on her community. At first, it felt unbearable, but slowly she realized that receiving was as sacred as giving. Her surrender became her healing. She discovered that letting others care for her did not diminish her. It connected her. It reminded her that love flows both ways. Surrender does not mean we abandon action. It means we act from trust instead of fear. It means we do our part, then release the outcome. Like the farmer who plants seeds, waters them, tends the soil, and then bows to the rain and sun. He does not pull at the sprouts, demanding they grow faster. He surrenders to nature's timing, and in that surrender, he finds peace. Dear friend, what are you still gripping that is asking to be released? Perhaps it is the illusion of control, the demand that life bend to your will. Perhaps it is an old wound, kept alive by your refusal to let it rest. Perhaps it is fear of the unknown, keeping you trapped in the familiar. Notice the weight of your grip. Imagine the freedom of letting go. So tonight, before you sleep, try this. Place both hands over your heart. Whisper softly, "I release what no longer serves me. I surrender to the flow of life. I trust that I am carried." Breathe deeply. Let the words sink into your body. Feel the weight begin to lift. Surrender is not a one-time act. It is a practice, a way of living. Each day, life will invite you to release something, a thought, a fear, a plan, a story. Each time you say yes, you grow lighter. Each time you open your hand, you discover that life does not abandon you. It holds you more gently than you ever held yourself. Dear friend, surrender is strength. It is the strength to let go, to trust, to rest in the arms of the universe. When you surrender, you discover that you are not falling, you are being held, always, already, eternally, resting in wholeness. Dear friend, we have journeyed through presence, acceptance, mindfulness, and surrender. Now we come to the quiet culmination, wholeness. For all the teachings, all the practices, all the stories point us back to this one truth: you are already whole. You are not broken, you are not lacking. Beneath the noise of fear and the scars of the past, your true nature has always been complete. The Buddha called this our original mind, luminous and pure, temporarily clouded by ignorance, fear, and desire. Just as the sky remains vast, even when hidden by storm clouds, your wholeness remains untouched, no matter how many storms have passed through your life. To rest in wholeness is to remember this truth and to live from it. Most of us spend our days believing the opposite, that we are incomplete, that something is missing, that we must strive endlessly to become enough. We chase achievements, possessions, validation, hoping to fill the gap. But the gap is an illusion. You cannot complete what was never broken. You can only awaken to the completeness that has always been here. There was a woman who spent her life seeking approval. She worked tirelessly, always afraid of disappointing others, always pushing herself harder. No matter how much she achieved, she felt empty. One evening, exhausted, she sat in silence. For the first time in years, she asked herself not, "What must I do?" but, "Who am I without doing?" In that stillness, she felt something extraordinary, a quiet presence, steady and whole. She realized she was not her roles, her achievements, her mistakes. She was awareness itself, and that awareness was enough. This is the gift of resting in wholeness. You stop chasing what you already are. You stop measuring yourself against impossible standards. You soften into being. You live not from striving, but from fullness. Let us pause for a practice. Close your eyes. Place your hand gently on your heart. Breathe slowly. Whisper silently. Nothing is missing. I am whole, here and now. Repeat with each breath. Feel the truth of it. Sink into your body. Even if your mind resists, your heart knows. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means nothing essential is absent. Resting in wholeness also changes how you see others. When you feel incomplete, you look to others to fill the void, to fix you, to complete you. But when you rest in your own wholeness, you meet others not from need, but from love. You see their wholeness too, even beneath their struggles. Relationships transform from clinging and demand into freedom and generosity. Love becomes not possession, but recognition. I see your wholeness. I honor it. There was a man who felt unworthy of love. He entered relationships desperate for validation, always afraid of being abandoned. His fear drove people away, confirming his belief that he was not enough. In meditation, he began to practice resting in his own presence. Slowly, he discovered that his worth did not depend on anyone else's approval. When he entered relationships again, he no longer clung. He no longer begged to be loved. He offered love from a place of fullness, and for the first time, his love endured. Wholeness also means embracing every part of yourself, the joyful and the wounded, the strong and the vulnerable. Too often, we exile parts of ourselves, believing they disqualify us from peace. But the truth is this: every part of you belongs. The anger, the grief, the fear, the shame, they are not signs of brokenness. They are signs of life. When held with compassion, they become part of your wholeness, not obstacles to it. A monk once said, "Do not seek to cut away your shadows. They are proof of your light." Resting in wholeness means embracing both light and shadow, both strength and fragility. You do not need to be flawless to be complete. You already are complete because nothing essential is missing. Dear friend, wholeness is not something to achieve in the future. It is the ground beneath your feet in this very moment. Each time you pause, breathe, and remember your true nature, you return to it. Each time you stop chasing and simply rest, you rediscover it. So tonight, as you close your eyes, try this. Place both hands over your chest. Whisper softly, "I am whole. I am enough. Peace is already here." Let these words become a lullaby, soothing the parts of you that still believe they are broken. Let them carry you into rest, into stillness, into the wholeness that has been with you all along. Dear friend, inner peace is not at the end of the path. It is the path itself. And when you live from wholeness, the storms of life may still come, but they cannot shake the truth of who you are. You are not the storm. You are the sky, vast, complete, unbroken, always. Thank you for walking this path. Dear friend, you have journeyed with me through 5 chapters of timeless wisdom, listening to the body, embracing change, cultivating compassion, surrendering, and finally resting in wholeness. You have walked through teachings that have echoed for more than 2,500 years, not as abstract philosophy, but as living medicine for the heart. Take a moment now to honor yourself. Not everyone chooses to walk this path. Not everyone has the courage to look inward, to listen deeply, to soften where they once hardened. The fact that you are here, that you have stayed with these words, is proof of your readiness, your strength, your longing for peace. I want to thank you, truly, for your presence. Without you, these words would be only sounds, only ink on a page. With you, they become alive, they breathe, they transform. Each time you read, each time you pause to practice, you bring these teachings to life again. You are the continuation of this wisdom. So may you walk forward from here with a lighter heart. May you remember to breathe when storms come. May you trust that compassion is always stronger than fear. May you know, without doubt, that you are not broken, that you are not alone, that peace is already within you. And dear friend, remember this. You are part of a great web of humanity. Your healing ripples outward. Every act of kindness you offer, every moment of presence you embody, every breath of compassion you take, these do not stop with you. They touch your family, your community, even strangers you may never meet. In healing yourself, you help heal the world. Before we part, let me leave you with this blessing. May you be free from suffering. May you know the peace that never leaves. May you live with courage, with tenderness, with joy. And may you remember, always, that you are enough. Thank you, dear friend, for walking this journey with me. Your presence here is a gift. If these words have touched you, if they have offered you even a small measure of comfort or clarity, I humbly invite you to continue supporting this work. Subscribe, share, or simply carry these teachings into your life. Each gesture, each act of support gives strength to keep offering more teachings, more stories, more spaces of healing like this one. Together, we create a circle of peace that grows wider with every heart it touches. Together, we remind the world that gentleness is power, that compassion is medicine, that love is the deepest truth. So thank you truly for being here. Thank you for listening, for opening, for walking this path. May you rest well, may you live fully, and may you carry this light forward for yourself and for all beings. My friend, before we close, let me thank you for sharing this quiet space with me. May these Buddhism lessons on trusting the universe soften your heart, and bring you rest. If this time together has touched you, please subscribe and return here whenever you need calm, healing, or a reminder that you are never alone. With each new video, we'll keep growing in trust, compassion, and peace. Good night, and may you sleep in the gentle arms of the universe.